In thinking about storyboards and how do you storyboard a big idea or a solution or concept, here's some things that I have done, some little templates that I've created that might be helpful. The first is this PDF here, kind of the story toolkit. And, just from my research, there's a lot of models that have three main elements to a story. This car model is from Paul Smith, and he's got a book, Lead with Story, the context, then the action, then the result. And then you go all the way back to Aristotle, right? There's a setup, there's a confrontation, there's a resolution. I think they call that the three-act structure. Or quite simply, a beginning, a middle, an end to a story, right? So those could be the elements. If I zoom over here, in the Stanford D School, when they are doing some design thinking work and creating a storyboard for a concept, they might have these four elements: the problem, the reframe, the solution, the benefit. I think you could simplify it to just three. Here's the big problem, here's the solution, here's the benefit. You see it probably fits with the other model. Here's the context, here's the action, here's the result. And then there are elements, I think, that make for a better story. And one of them could be a reframing the problem. Or another one could be something surprising or unexpected, right? One of my favorite books or models is Made to Stick from Chip and Dan Heath, and their success elements of a simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional story. That's how you communicate something that sticks. So I love that model too. So anything you can get in that's emotional, that's credible, that's unexpected will make for a better story, I think. So I have some examples here. This is just 3 panels. It looks like a comic strip, so I have this sheet here that I use to demonstrate the context. And, I'm referring back here, context, setup, beginning. That stage could be, you could have a character in it, could have a setting, it could have the big problem or a big opportunity or a scenario, right? Then the action stage, that could also be the idea. It could be the solution, the intervention, the thing to do. Then the result stage, that could be the positive outcome or the benefits of taking action on that idea. If it went well, what would it be like? And be specific. That's another tip, right? Give it a character, give it the setting, be specific. Don't be general. So I just demonstrated a couple really quick ones. A lot of these are around me telling my story about something, like maybe my academic research. Came to UW-Madison for this dissertation because I was impacted myself by leadership programs when I study learning and development. Hey, surprise, the learning didn't happen from what was already happening in most classrooms, PowerPoint, lecture reading, but from facilitation, experiences, and stories. So I just threw some icons in there. And then, okay, here's the result from me doing that research and doing something about it. Have created programs that have been used by over 2 million people, impact a lot of people. So then I also grabbed some other artifacts. So sometimes these are screenshots that show evidence or show a part of the story. Here's, one of my journal articles from Google Scholar. And then here's a Facebook post I saw the other day about a program I designed, reaching about 2 million people so far. So that adds a little bit of credibility to the story, adds some life, so you can always add more to these elements. And I love visuals, right? So that's another tip. Any visuals that add evidence or credibility are good in there too. So I could almost add that one to the action stage and this to the result stage. And then I do some other random stuff. Anytime I create a new product or a service or a new program, there's a story behind it, right? So I've got kind of this storytelling virtual mini retreat that I'm doing a lot now. And I tell my story about kind of really being in the belly of the whale during the pandemic, going on this retreat to do a labyrinth walk, getting this big insight, and then now doing storytelling retreats all over the country. And that's kind of what we're doing here a little bit too. So this is, kind of the model. The worksheets could be quite simple, 3 panels with some description. I think demonstrations really help too, since a lot of my demos might be things about myself. So here's some demos of other things that might be more solutions for a larger scale organization. You can see here I've got this kind of Stanford model that I'm playing with. And, for me, it's just like there's a flow, of the story. Each one of these could be a panel. Sure, 5 panels, sure. You know what I mean? But 3, you could probably fit it into 3. That shows, hey, here's an idea for a new program or product, a design thinking greatest hits videos and methods collection, an online course. And, here's me setting it up, the context. Here's me getting more towards maybe the reframe of that and into the action that we can take, the big idea, which is this greatest hits videos and methods program. and then what people would gain, the result or the benefit from that. Hey, they're going to learn the language of design thinking. They're going to gain empathy, connect with others. So that's how I might do that. So you could, sort this into those 3 panels to make it fit the 3-panel model. But I always like to, blend things in across the lines too, to show that flow. Then other methods that I like to use are concept sheet. Sometimes people really want to focus on the idea or the solution, that action stage, right? So this might suggest some things that they can do to elaborate that a little bit, like what's the title of this concept, make a guess, get specific, who's this concept for, how it might work or when, these are like the characters, the customer for this or the user, right? The problem itself, all these things, and I love the next steps to develop and launch it. And another great thing to have on that sheet too are not only the next steps, but who will do those next steps? Who's the champion of this? So a couple little things you could add on to that. We'll say worksheet or concept sheet, storyboard sheet. So here's an example of something I created back in the day. I had this idea for this Train the Trainer program, coaching and course, that has become one of my more successful programs. It's reached a lot of people. So here's how I turn that into this concept poster. You can see the story of it a little bit, right? You can see, they're going to get the online programs here. They're going to meet with me. Here's what it looks like, meeting with me on Zoom or whatever, right? So not quite an official storyboard format of those 3 stages, but it shows a lot about the solution. Another project I did around environmental education, we'll say. Here's what they created. One group created this good one. And I love this. I love the work they did. This group is new to this whiteboarding tool. They're in another country. They're taking on a challenge. They're just learning about it for the first time, connecting as a group for the first time, and ended up whipping this up in under 3 hours. The nice thing about my workshop is they got to tell the story of it, right? So this was the visual that helped them to tell the story versus just writing it out in those 3 panel comic strip format. In an event that's larger where you can't have everybody share the story, you need a little bit more on the paper, we'll say. So that's one example. And then here's another example of an idea or a concept or an action they have called Bubble Tree, right? So there's just some examples of some storyboarding models, some prototypes of what they look like, some examples for me of some of my stories for things I've done or created, what other people have done, and just a really rough kind of elements of what could be on that storyboard sheet or something like that. I think some other examples would be really helpful too for people to see some stories sketched out.